Hey everyone, Margarita here. I want to talk in this video today about the radiation fog and the exploding trees. So, as I've been talking about recently, because of the Fukushima flushing that's been going on since Labor Day weekend of 2023, it is expected to go on for about 40 years. And because of my medical condition, I've been forced to know things and learn things that the rest of the population doesn't have to worry about. It is very life threatening to myself and my youngest child because we were poisoned by carbon monoxide and then left for dead initially without help from the medical system. And we have one of the most extreme cases possible where the people got to live because I gave birth while suffering from it. He was formed in utero the last 10 weeks. And that got covered up, and then I returned to the source not knowing what was wrong, and we were both slowly sliding backwards from the time of birth on. And then about 2 years later I was able to figure everything out backwards. Prior to that, I had no medical history for the previous 20 years. So you can watch my other videos where I talk about a lot of this and what all happened to us. But this is what has forced me to learn what's going on with the Fukushima flushing and what's going on with the air, the heavy fog, and the exploding trees. Now, because this has happened numerous rounds, I believe I said in a previous video, they flush anywhere between 3 to 7 times per year is what it's been. And I've learned with each one, and I've been learning with all the different spills that I've been through and explosions that have happened since the beginning of my injury almost 10 years ago. So each one is slightly different. Each type of particle, gas, chemical, whatever it is, they're all slightly different. Now with the Fukushima flushing, because this is going to go on long term and it's going to go on so frequently, I had to learn even further. And now that we're a couple years into this, almost 3 years, we're about 2.5 years into this, I've learned even more. So I noticed a couple months ago, everybody was talking about the exploding trees, and that is also from the Fukushima flushing. It's not just from extremely cold weather. So that last round of flushing was done around Halloween and Halloween 2025. So I guess it depends on when you're watching this video. So Halloween, around that time, that's where the Fukushima flushing had ended. And then about 2 months later, it started to get really cold. The particles were still lingering. I'm not sure if an additional flush happened after Halloween or not. It could have, but either way, it did not all clear. There was quite a bit of it in the air surrounding the entire area. Again, all the waters are connected. So when they flush it from Japan, it goes into the Pacific Ocean. It spreads throughout the entire Earth where all the water is. And since the Earth is 75% water, it blankets the entire planet. So the particles lift off the Earth to a certain degree. I don't know exactly how many feet up they sit. It depends on temperature. But it will blanket the entire Earth, even if you're in the middle of the United States. With me, I live about 5 minutes from the water, so I'm fairly close to the Great Lakes. And that's a problem since, again, everything is connected. Um, Now, because it got so cold, the particles never, as it's warmer, the heat rises, they lift up slowly over the course of time. If it's warmer, the particles will dissipate and rise up and eventually leave the planet and rise up very slowly. But because this was done at a colder time, it didn't clear. It basically, as it got colder, the particle level got pushed down and it stayed real low to the ground, and it never actually cleared up off the Earth the way it normally does. And so when it got real cold, the radiation was still lingering in the entire area, or at least where I live, it was. And I live in Michigan. So it got extremely cold, and because of that radiation level being so high in the air, and then the weather was so freezing, I believe it was like -15 to -30 in some parts. That's what caused the trees to start exploding. Just like when you stick an egg in the microwave and it explodes, same concept. So that's what was causing all that. That's why nobody's ever heard of that happening before, and they're just coming out with it trying to act like it's normal or like it's always happened, but nobody's ever heard of it. It's not normal. It's not something that's been happening. It's only recent from the recent radiation flushing, because that was never going on previous to 2023. So because the levels were so high, that's what was causing all of that. Now, currently where I am in Michigan, there's been very, very heavy fog the last few days. And the last month or so, it's been extremely cold the entire time. So the particles never dissipated from that last round of flushing. Everything was kept real low to the ground. And once the weather finally broke about a week ago, maybe a week and a half, once the weather broke and it started to become above freezing temperatures, that's when the particle level finally started to dissipate and finally rise up to start dissipating up off the earth. And the levels were still so high that it created the fog. So that's what that fog is that everybody sees in the air that everybody's breathing in. That's why a lot of people have headaches. My situation is very extreme, so it's not just a headache. The radiation particles actually flow through my open brain tissue. They flood my entire system. And it's as if I'm getting radiation zaps throughout my entire body and all my cells because it all loads up, floods my system, loads up into my brain, floods my system. Everybody else doesn't have the condition that I have. Nobody's brain tissue is left open. Nobody's had the injuries that I have and is left to talk about it living. So with me, I can tell immediately. I don't need somebody to tell me. I'm extremely knowledgeable on this subject. So with what it is now, it's been about a week of this thick, heavy fog. And there's a lot of people who are recording videos of this or talking about this, or they're having, some of these symptoms or some of those symptoms. Nobody has what I have. Nobody's experiencing what I'm experiencing whatsoever. And but I do know other people are just experiencing like regular symptoms. It wouldn't be flooding their system in the manner in which it does myself. So, the symptoms in somebody who doesn't have my severe condition, which is like pretty much 100% of the population, they're just going to have like regular people symptoms where they're not really ever going to be able to pinpoint where it's coming from. In the medical system, they're not trained on the subject. They don't actually know that this is going on or that's what's causing all these things within the population. They just see an uprise in patients in their system at the times this goes on, with patients having these symptoms, and they're taught to treat the symptoms. They're not taught to understand like what's causing all this. So because it's life and death for me, yes, I'm forced to know this, but that fog is the radiation. I've never seen it quite look like, I've never seen it quite look like this since the flushing started. But I think it has to do with the different levels of temperature and what's all gone on at the time that it happens. And because so much of it was sitting so low for so long, and when the weather finally broke and it all just kind of rose up at once, there's just so much that it's out of control. And that's what all of that is. That's why the fog has been continuous for almost a week now where I'm at in Michigan. And I'm assuming this is probably more than just Michigan. This is probably in many places. But at the same time, they also use geoengineering to help like suppress those particles and like get them lowered or dissipated or get them higher. There's different things going on with it. I don't know all of the specifics with the geoengineering and what exactly they're using, but that it is being used to kind of like help dissipate the flushing from Fukushima. Not that I agree that that's good or that's right, but in my situation, I need whatever to happen to help get the particles dissipated. So what everybody is seeing outside, that fog that's been continuous since I don't know which day it was, but that's exactly what that is. It's radiation, and it will cause health problems in regular people with no condition or any condition. It doesn't have to just be because I'm poisoned by carbon monoxide at a cellular level that was left untreated with numerous brain injuries. It could be any condition. You could have cancer, you could have autism, you could have, because once you understand what autism is, you'll understand why. And then, you could have any other disease out there. You could have, many things, basically anything on the list. And it's going to make you hypersensitive and more susceptible to having an issue from the flushing. So, but like I said, and I've said this in a previous video about the flushing, that I've ran into many regular people after a flush that have no condition whatsoever, and they were all experiencing some type of issue. But again, that depends on what the temperature is outside and how quickly the stuff is dissipating and rising up. So that is what's going on. Long term, there's going to be a problem long term. And the way I'm viewing it now, because now there's been a couple years of this and numerous flushes, it's not actually all clearing at any point. They're just continuing on to keep each round of flushing going. And it's actually adding to the toxic bucket of our planet. It's not clearing 100%. And then they do the next round. It's actually getting to a point where they've done so much, it's not even like fully clearing. And more is getting added to it, which is why I think the fog is so thick currently. And it's just adding to it and adding to it. And it's getting to the point where it's affected my life to such an extreme degree. I was already in a boat where I couldn't really leave home. I've had to shelter in place quite a bit. And now it's even worse. And if I tried to continue to live life as if that's not what's going on, I probably won't be alive next week if I tried to do that. But I knew that. I've known that in advance. I've known that since the beginning of my injury. So I already know not to attempt something like that. It causes extreme suffering. It's not something I can just try to do or just go do because you want me to, or, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't just go out there and take trips and do this and that, because it's going to take me out. It will kill me, and it will kill me fast. So um, that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's just what I've noticed. And that fog, it's just very, very thick. It's nothing like I've ever seen before. And the way they plan on continuing to flush going forward, it's only going to add to it. It's only going to become slowly worse and worse and worse each year. I don't know what that means for the future of our planet, but I definitely think there's going to be a lot of deaths resulting from what is outside in the air. And that's part of the plan, actually. If you look at the bigger picture of what's going on in our world and in our country, that's the bigger plan. So, I mean, it's really bad right now. I had taken like one trip here or one trip there recently, just since the fog had started, and it knocks me unconscious. It takes over my entire system, my whole body. It takes the oxygen, it replaces the oxygen with the toxin, because my brain tissue is not sealed shut. Everybody else's is sealed shut, where it acts as a filter. Everything filters out when people breathe it in. With me, it does not. So it's taking over the oxygen, adding to the carbon monoxide already in my cells. It's replacing some of what oxygen I do have in my cells and adding to the already existing carbon monoxide. And it's as if the radiation, like it's like prickling needles, kind of, like as if you have had a dose of too much radiation. Some people would experience this, but it would only probably be temporary. It ends up taking over my whole system, takes over my hands, my feet, my face. And then if too much goes in and it gets to my heart, then my heart stops. Or if too much goes in to my brain, then it cuts off the oxygen to my brain, where that's where I end up no longer here anymore. So I've done a couple trips where I did go out and I came back, and it was like a half-hour trip there, half-hour trip back, and I'm being knocked unconscious just from the one trip, from extreme loss of oxygen, rapid loss of oxygen to the brain. And then when I went to my doctor's appointment, which is only 10 minutes away the other day, as soon as I got there and they did the blood pressure, it was extremely high right away. It's because of the heavy high levels of particles that are in the air that I was breathing in on the way there, even with the windows up and no ventilation in the car on. When the ventilation is turned on, it goes right through the ventilation. It becomes much worse. And I know that already, which is why I chose to get there in that manner. But it didn't matter. It still took over my system that fast to where it was still noticeable. There's no way to measure this in somebody's system. But the effects are measurable with how fast your heart is going and how high your blood pressure is. Same with the carbon monoxide within me. It's not something that can be measured within my system, but the other things will show odd numbers. So that's really the only way to gauge it, but that's what's causing it. And it's pretty excessive, and it's going to change pretty much any little bit of quality of life I thought I was going to have going forward. It's going to change all of that. I'm still in need of a couple years of everyday treatment at this point with an upgraded chamber, which I do not have. And currently, what I've been looking at is the chamber that's about $60,000, and that's truly the one that I need. And I would have to do that daily for about 2 years to kind of get myself to where I need to be, where I could start to travel out and about in the world. At the same time, this flushing is going to continue to go on numerous times per year. I'm going to be working against the clock. because now that I'm noticing it's not actually clearing each round, it's just, a portion of it's clearing and more is getting flushed. Only a portion of it's clearing, more is getting flushed. So the amount stagnant in the air, it's going to end up being continuous, and there's going to end up being so much of it, it's going to reach a point where I may not be able to leave home at all come a certain point in time down the line. I'm not sure exactly when, but I would say within a couple years, probably, with the rate we're going. But I do need an upgraded chamber system in order to help remove what I am taking in and try to get the rest of the brain tissue sealed shut. But that's kind of where I'm at personally. Other people are not going to be experiencing the extreme effects that I'm experiencing, but they are going to experience something. And I know there's a lot of people that I've seen on TikTok talking about they have a headache from the fog and certain other things, or maybe a cough. And that is what it is. That's what it's from. It's just the particles are not loading up in their cells, adding to already existing carbon monoxide in the tissues and cells. So that's why it's so extreme for me. Again, extremely life threatening. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this for. But if certain things don't happen quickly enough for me, if certain situations aren't taken care of, if the crimes are not exposed, if arrests are not made, and my stolen trust fund is not turned over to me, I don't know where that really leaves me or how much time that really leaves me with. Because without it, um, I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to get the $60,000 chamber that I need and get myself to where I need to be, where I stand a chance. Because currently, it's looking like I don't really stand a chance at life. And so part of the issue of why I'm so injured is because of those crimes and that stolen trust fund, and my mother making sure I was left for dead initially with the initial medical emergency and not being treated in the traditional medical system. And that's how that happened. And then I was significantly re-injured several times, also due to those crimes and the people involved in the crimes helping participate in that and re-injuring me to a significant degree, where it's reversed over $100,000 in the treatments that I paid for out of pocket. So I'm like working literally against all odds. That is why my channel is called Against All Odds, because my son and I have been against all odds since his birth. Um, and I'm just literally living on borrowed time at the moment. And I just want to make this video because I know a lot of people don't understand what's going on in the world. They don't understand the radiation flushing, the Fukushima flushing, the fog, the exploding trees. People don't understand what's really causing it, and they wouldn't have a reason to. But I actually have the answers to that. And because of everything I've been through, I have a lot more answers. And so if I actually make it out of all this, I have a lot of things to talk about that will change the future of the planet and the future of humanity, which is why I'm under such heavy attack, and I've been for some time. And it's due to my life experiences and what I've been forced to deal with. And a lot of this is criminal in nature. So currently, all these people are walking around free. They've all participated in some way, shape, or form, causing significant re injury to my brain, to my system. And that's why I'm left to the degree poisoned and injured that I am today, because it shouldn't have been. About 5 years ago, I was in a way better place, and just too many re injuries occurred. And now I'm working against the clock with the Fukushima flushing going on. So, and that's not including any additional spills from any other companies. So that's what I'm working with. That's what I'm dealing with. Um, yeah, my videos will be, I may like very well no longer be here, and then my videos are eventually going to go viral at some point down the line. So that's kind of what I'm working on, and I just wanted to give everybody an update on that fog that's in the air. And people are so confused; they never heard of such a thing, or they never seen anything like it. That's why, because it's never happened before. That's why nobody's ever seen it or heard of it. But yeah, I'll be back with more. Thanks. Bye.